thing that comes out of this is communicating back to people a timeline. But going back to the road show, it was a very good experience because at the launch of the Arabic channels, OSN Yahala, which is Arabic proposition, we were able to pick up very edgy, different content that really differentiated the channel at inception. And we are planning to do that. We continued. We stopped actually for a period of time, for 6 months, but in next year in March, as of March, we'll continue to do road shows every 2 months and with more focus on the Gulf. So we go to Cairo, Jeddah, Riyadh, Kuwait, Qatar. We'll continue to do this as of next year. And I think it was a very good experience, but there's a process for it. So again, novelty, targeting youth audience, novelty, anything that is a repetition, we have seen it before, just, okay, we look at it. And what we need to do is send feedback. I think I always say this to our team, that we have a content development team, so they receive everything. And it's so important that we send back feedback. Even if it's a negative feedback, your idea lacks novelty, thank you very much. I think we're committed to do that.
I completely agree. I just want to say something based on what Karim said. I agree with him 100% on what he said and all the patience. But he made the point of digital, and I think there's a lot of things that we're discovering online because we are going after this this youth audience, or you want to do something edgy or new, and a lot of the edgy and new right now is taking place online. So for some of the shows that we're looking at, we are going online to find the talent. So if there's no way to reach us through all the regular means, I think, and you have these great ideas or something, and you can, and the budget is small enough for you to be able to produce it and put it online, I would highly recommend that you push the online and create your own following and create your own audience base.
I mean, we're going to talk about digital, but I think this is a very important point. I mean, just talking about the iniquities that Karim was describing in terms of you really have to know somebody. I think there's some merit in the sense of you really have to be determined, and if you really want your idea to succeed, you will find out who the right person is, and you will keep pestering them, and that poor individual, if it's Khulud, will be blocking your phone number and everything else, but like you'll find a way. But I mean, if we look at, not to do a shameless plug for a moment, we have a Flamner I see in the audience who are crowdfunding productions, and they have quite a convenient platform there online in terms of showcasing where the producer actually provides their pitch for their idea. Even if they don't have a pilot, they can describe what their show or their film is in a way that is compelling enough for people to put money behind it. Is there a way in which, for example, NBC could have its own internal Aflamna, if you will, where rather than just you guys having to go to scour YouTube, you could almost reverse engineer Shahid so it was internally providing you with a back office that you could then filter at your own time, and the green light committee would, but by the time it got to them, you'd already have filtered the 100 or the 1,000 ideas down to say 20 or something.
I don't know.
Sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot. It's just.
No, I mean, we do some work with Aflamna. We've already, I think, Vida can talk a bit more about this, but there's been some relationship between Aflamna and some of the format shows that we have, where maybe certain stars that did not continue on the shows and wanted to take their talent and try to fund it and produce a song. I mean, Vida can talk about it a bit more later. So there is work that's being done with Aflamna. I'm not sure about the thing with the green lighting is that we have to go and meet in a room physically for an hour, for 2 hours or 3 hours every 6 weeks to watch everything. If you're sending people links and you're asking them to watch it, it goes into your inbox and kind of sits there with all the tapes that are on your desk, and for the day that you're free, and that day keeps getting postponed. So the fact that there's a physical meeting that happens on a regular basis, in which you get to view stuff because that's what you're there for, to sit and view, and somebody has gone through them, I think is a bit more practical than sending people or having something on a site that you have to go and click on. Because a lot of the distributors that we work with send us their sites, and almost everything now is available online. And I don't know how often you go and you watch that.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. Also, if you created a filtration site for yourself, then you'd obviously have even more people contributing, and so it would make it a much more. You'd almost need a pre-editorial team to manage the problem that you created, But I mean, in terms of the kind of stuff that people are keen on, I mean, I'll start with you, Karim. Like, what do you find is the most attractive to broadcasters at the moment in terms of I mean, obviously you're looking, if I'm not mistaken, more at the factual side of things and more at the entertainment side of things, I should say.
I think there isn't one answer, because it depends really on the broadcaster, and that's part of your homework. If you have more than one concept or more than one idea in your catalog, that you don't go and just throw everything at everyone. There's some broadcasters who are very big on entertainment and reality show. There are some broadcasters who are very big on game shows. There are some who are specifically focused on scripted and drama. There's some who mix. But you need to understand a little bit. You do a little bit of homework beforehand. I think that Lina and Khulud can talk more about how they see the trends from their perspective. But from mine, the most frustrating answer I get is, what are you looking for? Everything. And really, and it sounds funny, but you understand why they say it, because they also don't know what's out there. So they don't want to say, I'm not considering this, because you might have the most amazing idea that's a reality show. And if they tell you, I'm not looking for a reality show, and you don't show them that idea, but typically, from my perspective, when you're a production company, very few broadcasters want to limit what you show them, although this then creates the problem that they have too much to look at. But you do your homework. I think if you do your homework and you incorporate it in the pitch, that helps a lot, as opposed to just giving them the generic, here's the promo, here's the leaflet, let me know if you're interested.
But you were in a past life, you were the executive director of television at one of the biggest broadcasters in the region. I mean, has that informed the way you approach broadcasters?
In hindsight, I'm wondering why I switched to the other side. The reason I said you need to know someone is for exactly the same thing that Lina was talking about. There's so much coming in. And in the end, you tend, whether you want to or don't want to, there is a bias towards the people you've worked with before. Because they understand you understand them, you can reach each other easily. When they talk to you, you don't need to explain who you are, they don't need to explain where they're coming from. So there is a bit of a subconscious bias, let's say, towards working with trusted production partners. I don't know if
But this is the key problem of our industry. This is why we keep repeating ourselves, because we trust certain people, and these became a certain generation. So what comes out of them, yes, you feel easy at working with them because you know them, they did your budgets, you know what quality are coming out of them. But after a while, we're becoming very repetitive. There's no, I don't want to say no creativity, but sometimes it's us as broadcasters is really challenging, and success is in taking risks. So sometimes we need to we took certain risks where really I regret that I had ever done them, where we worked with new producers who were very creative but have no sense of what does it mean management and timelines and deadlines. But I don't regret it at the other side, because it's a new experience. We got new concept and ideas. So it's like really a balance between talking to companies that you're very easy to work with them, but companies who are open to integrate new resource from the market.
I agree. I would say there is a solution for this, which not a lot of broadcasters do, probably because it's the easiest thing to save on in terms of money, which is pilots. And everywhere else around the world, pilots are the way that people test out concepts that they're not sure about, whether it's the production company or the writer or the concept of the show itself. You invest in pilots and you know they're not all going to make it, but at least when the one that you like, before you go and commission 30 episodes or 13 or 26, you actually know what you're going to get. And because we don't have pilots, I see a lot of bias also towards formats that have already been broadcast elsewhere. So that, again, is a sort of a vicious cycle, because we keep talking, we want creativity from our region. But if I'm creative in my region and I come to a broadcaster and say, okay, where else have you put this format? And say, well, it's not a format, it's an idea I have. I've never done it on TV before. No, I can't take the risk. And that kills, it's like something has to cut this cycle. And so either broadcasters have to put some money aside and invest in pilots, or as Lina was saying, we're going to have to rely more and more on the more entrepreneurial creative people who go and put out something online and gain a reputation and then come to us sort of pre-piloted.
But also, in a way, I think people need to be a bit less precious about themselves. If you come to a broadcaster with an idea, and it's a great idea, and you have no experience whatsoever, and the broadcaster tries to partner you up with a production company or with their own in-house production team, you should be more excited about getting your idea on the air than holding on to the idea and saying, no, I will only do it if I can produce it myself, and that's it, and this is the way. Sometimes we are putting we'd love to take risks, and all of us are out there to do it, but we have people to report to. There's millions of dollars that are involved in these productions. So to just take a risk and put it on somebody who's not proven on any level, you know, even though the idea is amazing, is really a really big risk, unless it's like a very small idea that you could test out without, you know, so to partner up with in-house production teams or production companies that we suggest that you work with is something that you should look into.
So you asked the question what we're looking for. So let's be direct to the point. Arabic movies. We're looking for good quality movies, Arabic movies. And what we have today in the market, two kinds of movies. Either commercial movies that I have depression when I watch, or festival movies that are produced for festivals. We need, and our Arabic realities are so rich and the movies are so shallow and do not represent our Arabic reality. Look, our art, our political, socio-economic situation, you know, is so rich. Why can't we come up with movies that are real, that are like festival movies, but that are commercial enough that we can get audiences on them? So, you know, when you look at movies, you know, where are action, thriller, Arabic movies, for example? We have few. We know that genre drive audiences. We have tested it. So we're looking at these new genre of movies, and it's quality stories, but are not festival, not produced just for festival to win an award. It's produced really to win audiences. So that's on movies. This is really the key criteria. We meet, we look again and again, or I read the story from beginning to end. Nice, I watch it. None of my sisters watch it. None of people who really sit there to watch a movie will watch it. It's a nice concept, but it's not a quality and you know movie that the way we had Western movie channels, and I can create various genres, various windows. Nothing in the Middle East now on the Arabic film side. You know, there's genres you don't see them, specifically on the genres that are catering on to young audiences. On the drama side, everything we see is social dramas, most, 95%. Where are medical dramas? Where are legal dramas? Where are action? Where are thrillers? So we're really, and you know, it's to producers, just don't really waste your time and send us an idea. This content or this drama is similar to that. If it's similar to this, why would I buy it? So we're looking at dramas that are differentiated, looking at the genre that are not today represented on the map of Arabic dramas. And when it comes on general entertainment, on our side, at least for the pay TV side as a guidance, we're not looking at general entertainment. Free-to-air have succeeded, and they have done all of these general entertainment formats. We are looking, if we're looking at formats, drama formats targeting young audiences and that are proven, that have product awareness and would have the success if we ride on them. So we're looking at also any producer who have an idea of a format for dramas that are catering to that audience. So I think if we look at these three genres, this is what we're looking at. And there's one content which we also looking at it, what we call inspirational content. Not religious, but inspirational content, whether it's inspiring audiences about health, lifestyle, but it's more on the inspirational side. We're sick and tired of makeover shows and fashion and how to lose weight and all of that. That's not what we're looking on the inspirational side. So these are really, if we think about the OS, and I think maybe most of the industry we're now saying, we need to offer something new to keep our rating coming up and keep the investment.
I agree with Khulud 100%. I mean, especially on films, it's like come to the, we are entertainment channels, and I think there's something about filmmakers here, and I'm not saying that one should not do artsy-fartsy, and I'm not saying that one should not do, but you have to do movies that can be seen by a mass, and we live in the Middle East. The Middle East is a very complicated place. We always have issues that are happening in different parts of the Middle East, and we have to tackle these issues, and the movies have to be deep and depressing, but you can deliver your message without having a movie that you come out of and you're like, I can't breathe, because nobody's going to come home after a hard day at work and turn on and watch these kinds of movies, or very, 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 very few. And we have to, when we choose what to program, look at movies that people come home because they want to relax and watch. I'm saying this as somebody who loves art films and who watches only art films and gets really frustrated when I'm programming and it's all, Van Diesel and Fast and Furious. But And I'm not saying go there, but as Khulud's saying, look at all the different genres. Try to make movies that are a bit more accessible to people, that are not, you know, I don't know, I have to see this, but I don't know if I have the energy to see it. Not I have to see this, I want to see it, it's kind of movies. This is really the...
And
one more thing, when we come to try to buy rights for TV for you, from the filmmakers for these movies, it's true that you've spent a lot of money to get them produced. And it's true that you want to try to recuperate your investment, but trying to get your film seen, getting your film seen on NBC, that potentially opens up the market to 250 million people from the MENA region, is really much more important than you making back a certain amount of money. If they offer you whatever they offer you, say yes. Don't say a $250,000 or 15 million or 50 million or whatever, numbers that, be reasonable in the kind of finances that they're offering for these films. Because this is an opportunity for you to get your film beyond the festival, onto a screen, for an audience to know who you are, and help you with the rest of your career.
Exactly. We're trying to get the short movies, the short films. For 2 years, I came up with an idea. I was so excited about, let's gather all the Arabic short movies. No one have really gave them opportunities. And let's really make them an appointment viewing and put a marketing campaign, start with a program, meeting the director, the ideas. So excited about it, even had a budget behind it. And I had the shock of my life when I started licensing. We're talking like license fees higher than the Western megahits. So really what you said, financial sense, because we're producers, we're broadcasters, but producers, we understand how much it costs. So sometimes...
There's an issue here, isn't there, in the sense that a Western movie can have a licensing power in Scandinavia, in South America, in Turkey. So by the time they hit the MENA market, it's all just jam. And whereas a good Arab film needs to recoup most of the investment if it's done as a commercial venture within the Arab market. It's going to have a limited...
Why?
Well, I didn't say all, but I mean obviously there will be a value if it reaches accolades or if it has a more general appeal. It will make a success in France, in the US, but
And I want to add one thing. When I was working with Dubai One, we had the same idea of trying to, especially around Emirati producers and around the national holidays or something. And a lot of the filmmakers you get in touch with will not answer you back. You're like, I'm giving you the opportunity to get your... How can you not answer me back, They don't care. So, I mean, it's a two-way street. When we reach out to you, answer us.
There are so many questions on this area of commissioning and acquisition that we could easily spend a whole hour, but I think we have to move on
Can I just, before we close, this is comedy. Sure. I think, especially because we're developing this and we are so interested in gathering comedy concepts in the Middle East. It's a growing genre. We have research that proves comedy is a growing genre in the Middle East. And, yes, there's editorial limitations on it, but comedy could be the next big thing after action. With audiences being so thirsty to look at things in an open way, but non-controversial way, which brings comedy have an added value there. So I think comedy is the next big thing. So comedy concept, whether movies or dramas or entertainment, would be a point of attraction for everyone, I think, for broadcasters, no?
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to go back to the point of we want producers to be creative and do something different. If you're sitting on a producer side, you're most likely not getting 100% of your costs from one channel in scripted. Right? So basically you're going to play the safe route. If nobody from the channel side is encouraging you or partnering with you or telling you that they're willing to take a risk with you, you're going to look and say, okay, what's working out there? Oh, look, there's 500 social dramas that are always being bought by the same broadcasters every year, and they're always showing them, and they all come back in Ramadan. It's the same actors, same plot lines. So as a producer, when you're putting your own money in, you're going to go back and you're going to stick to the safe route. So if you want producers to be creative, you need to reach out and say, I am so-and-so, I am OSN, I'm MC, I'm willing to take a risk. I will pay you 100% of the cost, give it to me as an exit producer. I will take a hit, give you some money and not get my money back unless you make your money back or something. You need to reach out to them and let them know that it's okay to take a risk, because otherwise it's, when you're sitting in a broadcaster and you're a commissioner, you're not worried about whether you're going to lose money or not. You are at a corporate level, but it's not a personal level of worry. When you're a producer, it's a personal decision. Am I willing to risk losing my own money because a lot of the producers I know are bored with what they are making. And this is a fact. But it's a safe business decision because there's nobody from the other side saying, it's okay, take a risk. Here's 50% guaranteed of your cost no matter what happens. Here's me helping you distribute it. Here's me giving you my facilities or my camera crew or whatever for free. There's nothing coming from the other side in most cases.
I want to kind of take this commercial point and grab the opportunity to move on to a related topic, if I may. And it is, in fact, funny enough, I kind of need to start with you, Karim. I mean, for those producers that, making TV shows is expensive. Making good quality TV shows a lot of the time is very expensive. And yes, you can go to an Aflam or a crowdfunding source to help you. You might have independent funds. You might be able to leverage the resources of NBC's internal production teams in order to manage your costs. But there is another source of funding, which is advertising. You can involve advertisers in an early stage. This is a trend which we're seeing elsewhere. And obviously YouTube has opened it up a little bit in terms of partnerships with advertisers. Do you think there's scope for it in this market, Karim?
Okay, so I can tell you a funny story. My company is called SyncMedia because it was supposed to be synchronizing. This is very corny, but bear with me. When I was a broadcaster, all the advertisers were complaining. You broadcasters, you go pick you pick your shows, you produce them, you pick the host, you pick the cast, you pick the set, you pick the size, you do everything, you finish the whole thing, and then you come to us and say, here's a show, give me X million or X 100,000, whatever, I'll stick your logo at the front and the back and in the middle and whatever, and call you a sponsor along with sometimes, there's been shows on TV where there's been 8 sponsors. If you watch Egyptian television in particular, because their financial issues are harder, sometimes one show has 8 sponsors. How is that relevant to an advertiser? And then I talked to media buyers, and media buyers were all going, the 30-second spot is dead, there's too much clutter, if you're not in the first ad right after the break, nobody's going to see you, and we're becoming commoditized, so we want to get into content. So everybody was singing off the same sheet. It was wonderful. So here we go. I tried this for a year. It's lovely to talk, but there's a reality of how things are bought and sold, and how money is made. This is all legal. I'm not saying there's anything under the table, but there's a whole process of how marketers allocate their money, of how sales reps plan budgets, of how media agencies and media buyers plan, that basically makes it very difficult to go outside the norm. So
you're saying you have to reinvent the commercial model. Advertisers
You're not going to reinvent as a production company, so you have to wait for market reality to change that. Otherwise, it's better off for you. There are things that are easier and not. It's easier to do what you're talking about in a scripted series because it's already been done before. Sometimes the broadcasters don't even know. Suddenly there's 5 Mercedes in the same series. It's not a coincidence. But producers do this because they need to basically make do. Sometimes it's for profit, sometimes it's to lower their costs. This has been going on for a while, but it's not going on in the same sense of what you hear about in the US or in the UK, of it's a big movement and it's being supported by the advertiser. No, not really. It's very much still a case-by-case basis. You were mentioning Coke Studio as the one shining example.
Well, Coke Studio came to us with an idea that fit perfectly. Coke Studio came to us with an idea that fit perfectly with the brand of the channel. So they have Coke Studio is basically they bring a Western singer and they match them with an Arab singer, and they come up at the end of it with a fusion song that is an Arabized or Westernized twist on an Arab. So it's celebrities, it's highly produced, it's music, which is very much up NBC4's, and it's youth, and so it was like a very polished, highly produced show. That's the kind of thing that works, but you can't just come and say, you know, I want to do, you know, a show. I don't know, it has to be the right vehicle.
Well, presumably it creates problems for you as a commercial entity if somebody's coming to you with a show which has already got a brand associated with it. I mean. Yeah,
and I think if you want to do resale, that seems, if they're doing a product placement, and then it becomes a bit of an issue.
You know, for us, because our business model is totally different, our revenue is driven through subscriptions. So, and the problem, because we buy Arabic content, and the content is produced for advertisers. And what we want is content that produced for audiences, with audiences as a priority. So this is why sometimes you get that repetition cycle in the Middle East. And for us, big part of our proposition is giving that neat, uninterrupted experience. And at the same time, we want to capture some advertising revenue as a pay TV. But our key, like 90% of our revenue, is subscription. But also, we have, you know, a very interesting experience now where we're able to attract a stream of strong advertising revenue through new ways of promoting content without disturbing the viewing experience. You know, the digital experience, the second screen opportunities, the digital media associated with drama. This is another thing I think Arab producers need to think of. Technology is changing, the way viewers actually are watching content is changing. So currently we have drama where we invested massively on. It's like, okay, do you have EPKs? No. Making of? No. Any digital assets? No. Why? You already made the investment. The same thing on movies. If you look, and we are developing now our platform where you go to movies and you have trailers and you have extras, and these extras could be, you know, a tangent on the drama, or so the technologies are you know, developing, and we're making sure that we have assets to be able to populate and use that technology, and we have these assets from all our Western producers. Arabic, it's still even unheard of.
Presumably this would really help a content producer to differentiate their product if they could come to you with a full...
My God, yes. If someone come and say, look, this is a show, have an app, viewers can participate through an app, there's digital assets for it that you can drive, where actually the show will be on TV, but there's aspects or other assets that will sit on digital that will actually drive viewership. Absolutely, it will attract lots of attention, I think, whether for OSN or free-to-air.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of the viewers that we're trying to attract are viewers who live on the digital platforms. They're watching their stuff on mobile and online and stream and download it legally and I don't know what. So, and there's an expectation because a lot of the Western series that we show, all of them have these 360 elements. So yes, we need people to come to us and have that as part of their plan, but we also need people to start thinking of programming that uses this in a way that makes sense, not just, you know, we'll have a YouTube. One should look at digital, the 360 as something that extends the experience, and not just in a way of, okay, I'll put the same thing, the same show, I'll put it on this and this and this, you know, on this platform and that platform and the other platform. It's more than that, because each platform can add and enrich the experience. So elements need to be produced, or elements need to be created that work specifically for these different platforms.
And I mean, obviously you have Shahid.net sitting there alongside your free-to-air offering. Is it integrated? I mean, can you sort of, do the Shahid guys get to be involved in the acquisition process?
I think we tried to get rights for Shahid for most of it. I think Shahid now is creating its own channel. There's somebody here who can talk about it in more detail. Also, they're looking for their own content, and I think specifically Arabic content is something that Shahid is very interested in looking at, and it should be a door to be knocked on by a content producer of Arabic content.
I'm conscious we have a couple other topics that we meant to cover, but I really feel like this is good what we're doing here, and so I don't want to kind of introduce too many more things. I think, given that we've only got like 10 minutes left, I think it's time we let the audience ask some questions. So please, if we have any microphones to circulate. Anyone have a question for the panel? The lady at the front. I think there's one coming. Could the questioners also introduce themselves, if that's possible, just a little bit about who you are?
Sorry, I'm Liz Shackleton from Screen International magazine. I'm based in East Asia, where a lot of the broadcasters actually have in-house film arms. So I was just wondering, is that something that ever happens in the Middle East, that you would actually produce a movie in-house, or is it something you'd think about doing in the future?
So I don't understand the question. Taking
In-house films, producing in-house films.
No, I don't think, producing in-house, again, and go to the concept, I don't know if you share the same view. Production facilities in the Middle East, I don't think, they have very big established companies, and we consider ourselves part of that. We don't think that the strength is in the resource, in the creative resource and experience available in the market, but I don't think one company is capable of doing it, neither us. So we just, what we do, if we have a project, we will go and recruit the best resource that's available in the market. So we don't take movies and develop inside, we just acquire. And
that's standard for this region?
Yes.
It's interesting, I was talking to, of all people, Carlos Tibi from IC Flix last week, and they're very ambitious in this area. They're talking about producing, or at least commissioning, 12 films in the coming 12 months. Now, how exactly they're going about that, and whether how they're resourcing it, an example, and what the kind of budgets we're talking about, I don't know, but interesting question. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Is that a reasonable thing to be doing, do you think?
I think movies are drivers. Are drivers at least for subscription. We know the key reason why people subscribe are movies. But I think to the point where Arabic movie production, the industry needs to develop. There's no industry today. How many movies have been produced last year? 24? I don't know, around that number. So, and even the resource, even the creative resource that's available in the Middle East to guarantee that level of, to get the return, to guarantee a return on your investment and shareholder money, I think there's a lack still of confidence in that talent. While that's not the case on dramas. Although we have seen a shift in movies, I think we're far away still from really getting a big investment in like a slate of feature movies.
Of course, we're lacking Rotana on the panel, and to be fair, Rotana owns half the movie rights in the Arab world, and is the most significant owner and commissioner of films from that point of view in the region, I think is fair to say. So.
I think there's going to be an outlet between iTunes Middle East and ICFlix and eventually Shahid. There will be an outlet for Arab films to be tested in a way, to see the kind of viewer response to them.
Okay. But this is going to be like, featurettes or like not really
it's
trailers.
Feature.
Yeah.
No, feature films.
Arabic feature films.
Arab feature films.
But then the producers need to be available to show their content or license their content on a viable license fees, which is not the case today.
Gentleman in the grey jacket.
Hello, my name is Bassam Hajjawi. I'm an independent distributor and member of the board of the Royal Film Commission in Jordan. To touch on a point that Khulud has mentioned, I think one of the limitations regarding Arabic drama is that most of it depends on the serial as versus the series. Because we're talking about pilots, and while there aren't, a concept that's presented in a pilot, and because they would come to you and tell you, okay, it's like the other series, similar to the other series that's being produced. If you take the American model, a network, for instance, would commission a company to produce a pilot of a series or a concept that this company has presented. And they finance the pilot. Because then if you want to create independent episodes, then a cost of a pilot would be maybe twice as much as an episode in a series. So how would the networks, the major networks that are looking for new ideas, like OSN or maybe NBC, approach this, and how can they tackle it so that they can encourage a new concept of creating the series where every independent episode is independent and it closes there, but it's a continuous, same format, but different stories.
Is your question to the whole panel?
I think there's, I think that we understand the importance of pilots, and I think there's talk about money being put aside to start producing pilots. So, but I think what you're talking about is also that a lot of the shows, a lot of the dramas in the Middle East tend to be 30 episodes or 60 episodes, and they don't come back as serialized. There's very few that come back for season after season after season, which is something I don't understand why, again, we don't do. There's
lack of ratings, because in general, you would commission or you would have the confidence in successive seasons based on success. And what is the measurement of success? Okay, in our case, we have data coming from the box, so we know exactly how many viewers watched and the feedback, subscription, whether it was a subscription and retention driver. But still, as an industry, a show become a success, but there's no measurement that will define, yes, there will be a second season or the show will be axed. But the other point on the pilots, I just said, we are committed to doing pilots and financing pilots, but the biggest thing is even if the producers agree, the casts, they think they are bigger than really coming and participating in a show that can go or not go. So I think it's a mentality and education that we need to engage all in, so that celebrities, the cast and actors understand that, for shows to be produced and have life, they need to come down to reality and be part of. So financing is not the block, I think, is one of the blockers, but the other one is the actors accepting to do pilots.
Or the stars. I'm sure you can get a lot of newbie actors to...
The lady at the front.
Hi, I'm Dani. I'm basically here from a blog, but I do have a TV-oriented question. Two, actually, quick ones, if you don't mind. First of all, with regards to Arabic content, as Khulud said earlier, what you do look for, your major criteria is novelty. That said, does the accent, the dialect, we have so many different Arabic dialects here, does that count for anything? For example, the general perception is that comedy works better in an Egyptian dialect and drama probably works better in a Syrian dialect. Do you still take that into consideration for productions, or are you willing to open that?
The key point is consumption. So we know Egyptian dialect is consumed by everyone understands. But if you look at Gulf, maybe it's not as understood, but depends what is the key market for that content. So for example, our key markets are the Gulf, so we would invest in any Gulf comedy or any Gulf regardless, because that's targeted at, and I think thinking that pan-Arab doesn't really work anymore is from our experience as OSN, the more you are regional, the more you are Gulf, and as long as it's very authentic to Gulf, it will succeed. The moment you try to be something for everyone, it loses its identity. Even you go even stricter, you go Kuwaiti, it's good because it will attract that audience, and if you try to be more, but I think Gulf works as it's understood, Egyptian is understood. There have been some trends where we have an experience. You saw lots of dramas which were mixed pan, Lebanese, Syrian. It started, it's nice, but then when we start total exaggeration, it loses identity and it loses interest. So there's a balance between, being mixed and pan-Arab and regional. And the more, I think, the more we are regional, the more it will be authentic and the more it will succeed.
I think also the plot line needs to, if there's a reason that there are, especially when it's produced and it's pan-Arab, if the plot line there's a reason for you to have a cast from Egypt with a cast from Lebanon and a cast from Syria, then it's fine. But if you're just imposing it because you're trying to, you're trying to reach everybody, then it doesn't work at all.
Okay, and another one, if you don't mind. Okay, we are an Arabic-speaking region largely, which makes sense that your target audience is Arab, and the production, local production, is largely Arab. But targeting English-speaking audiences, because we do have a large expat market in here. Why are there are very few English language productions, local productions, and is this something that you look to explore in the near future?
We have massive volume of available Western content that we export from Hollywood studios with massive output yields and massive revenue to them. I think so audiences who are in the Middle East have enough. I think as I talk about OSN, we're fully dedicated to premium Western entertainment. So you find hundreds of channels in premium content, but the problem is when it comes to Arabic. But there's one point is some of the Arabic content that have been produced, I don't know NBC's experience, we subtitle it in English and we see high ratings. So there are interest from the Western audience to content that attract their attention. So we have a sex education show and it had the highest rating of Western audience wanting to understand what do these apps, there's something called sex education show, or Harim Sultan when subtitling English, or there was a show called Muslims Are Coming, it's a comedy, and we saw that. So there is like some shows which is anti-stereotypes, attract Western audience. But I think for English the audience, they have enough, I think, at hand. What is lacking is premium Arabic, and that's where the focus. But there's interest for subtitling Western Arabic content, but I think the target is Arabic language speaking.
I think we have a couple of, there's a gentleman here in the pink shirt who's been trying to ask a question. We've probably got time for one more question after this. So.
Mohammed Abdullah, producer and distributor from Egypt. I just want to focus about the budget of the channels every year. Why it's like a secret. From my point of view, it's very important to know the budget of the acquisitions and the production for the channel.
Why do you care about our budget?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
it's our budget. What's the cost of your show? This is again, it's like, what's your budget? My budget is my budget. What's the cost?
The budget of the acquisitions and production for the freelance. Because I agreed with Karim, we need to, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. I want to present specific titles. So it's very important to know the budget.
No, but when you come to me to pitch something that's in the afternoon on a weekend, I will tell
Lina,
you it's going to be a low budget.
What only here it's a cut budget every year.
We'll say
just cut budget. I don't know the budget. You know what I mean?
You know, I can tell you one thing, and this is really, I can talk about us and NBC. If you come with a winning concept that will attract the millions, I think I speak about us, and I think the same us, and we'll jump into it.
If we need to.
Karim, how would you answer this question?
No, in a sense, I agree with Khulud. That bit that's missing is we don't get the final answer usually. So sometimes if they do reject something because of the budget, we don't know. And it's good to know. And I agree. It's not our business how much they're willing to spend because the budgets are flexible and it's a line item thing. It's not like a reality show must cost X. If they like something, they have the liberty to shift things around. But if they then reject something because of the cost, it's good to let me know because then I know either next time or I can revise the idea or I can come back with something different.
I think it's very rare that you reject something for the cost. If you love the idea and the cost is prohibitive, you will tell the person the cost is prohibitive and let's see what we can do about working on it.
Same here. Honestly, there's not one big show that we have big investment that we rejected. We will come and negotiate and we're good negotiators and bring the cost to where it should be, but we never really reject a total concept and without saying just because of the budget. So really be confident about your winning ideas and bring them on.
I love the question, actually. Thank you for that one. That's good. One last question. I think actually this gentleman in the white shirt, I know there's a few people, but he has been holding his hand up a few times.
Hi, my name is Talal Al-Mahanna. I'm a producer in Kuwait with my company Linked Productions. I was very pleased to hear actually that you were, Khulud, interested in also in the short films, because for me as a producer to work in the region and to move out of short films and into fiction, of course we need filmmakers who can make work that graduates from being short to medium length to long films. Do you have any other programs coming up like you described for short filmmakers?
We're fully committed, and I use this forum to say we're fully committed to come up with concepts around short movies or dedicate a constant window constantly on it. And our experience is viewers the loyalty is to content vis-a-vis channels. So we're really committed. But the problem is when we come even in the Gulf, I have Nuha here, who who works on we don't find the content, and when we find it, we start laughing because it's millions.
And I know what you're talking about. I recently distributed about 30 short films to a regional university, but it took time to explain to the filmmakers that, you know, the university was merely licensing and not buying and owning and, you know, taking the copyrights and all this kind of thing. So it's an educational issue. And I think once they get that and they see that there's a kind of value to the work, not just for themselves, but for the filmmaking scene or the filmmaking community, then they'll start to get a better idea about that. But I would love to talk about it further with you.
You know, I think we're generalizing when we say this. It doesn't mean that everybody's asking, you know, it means that sometimes when we're coming with good intentions of highlighting certain things like short films, and we get the kind of reaction that we get, that's what we're complaining about. It's not necessarily like everybody is.
Correct.
Lina, Khulud, I think there's a door at the back, so if you do want to leave now. Thank you so much to the audience, and thank you to this fantastic panel. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too.